This talk is going to be about assessment. And to be honest, if I was in a conference a couple years ago and someone started their talk with, "This is going to be about assessment," I would have thought, okay, time for a nap. I used to think assessment takes time away from teaching, that it's boring for both the students and the educator, and that I could see why it's necessary, but it's definitely a necessary evil. I didn't really get it. So this is what was wrong with my thinking. I was putting the cart before the horse. I was thinking about assessment methods before I'd ever considered the purpose of assessment, or specifically my purpose for doing assessment. And so when I did think about the purpose, I realized the way I had been doing assessment was all wrong. And so what I had to do was develop my own methods. I'm a librarian. I work at the Student Multimedia Design Center, and that's at the University of Delaware Library. At the center, I coordinate our workshops, so we teach on a variety of topics. This is the way we used to do assessment. We'd give 5 multiple choice questions at the beginning of the workshop, and then the same 5 questions at the end. So if it was a workshop on iMovie, it'd be 5 questions about iMovie. So what's the events library? Things like that, fact-based questions. Here's an example of some results. I taught Final Cut Pro last fall. On the pretest, students scored an average of 10%. Okay, so they didn't know too much going in, that's fine. On the post-test, they scored an average of 100%. So that means every student who took that post-test got all 5 questions correct. 100%? I must be the best teacher in the world and there's nothing I can do to improve, right? Well, I thought about what can I actually tell from these results? And all I could really say about them is that the students were paying attention and that I was teaching to the test. And it got me thinking, how can we get useful assessment data when we're teaching experientially, when we're hoping for experiential learning? And I think I've devised a way. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's more complicated than just giving a multiple choice quiz. But if you take anything away from this talk, it's that analyzing, collecting useful assessment data for experiential learning will be worth it. The data you'll get back will be a lot richer, it will be more valuable, and it will be unfamiliar at first, but there are a lot of people doing it. I'm doing it, and the term that's coming up, or the term that you'll see and in this year's Horizon Report and in the card game and around the conference is learning analytics. And this is sort of an umbrella term. So I'm going to talk now about specifically what I'm doing with learning analytics. I thought about how do people learn software when they're brand new to it? They do a lot of mousing around. We're clicking on things, we're seeing what's what. And I thought, is there a way I could track this mouse data, see what I could make of that? And I developed a method called MACAW, Mouse Analytics for Computer-Assisted Workshops. And I'm going to give a brief overview of where MACAW is today so I can talk about where I want to bring it. MACAW has 3 stages. In the first stage, this is during the workshop. All the students are on their own computers, doing their thing, learning by doing, and in the background, I'm capturing lots of data. I use an application I found free online called iOgraph to capture the raw mouse movements, and then I use a scripting language to make that application do what I want. After the workshop, I combine all of those sources together and visualize them so that I can do data analysis and hopefully invoke change. I can look at the data, immediately see what's working and what's not working, and fine-tune instruction that way. So let me give you a more detailed example. Let's say I'm teaching Photoshop, and people are brand new to it. They didn't bring their own image, so I gave them this image of a wind-up robot. And in 5 minutes, I want to teach them a little bit about layers, about adding text, about cropping. Well, here's what 5 minutes of raw data from a student's mouse movements looks like. and it's a little bit intense. There's a lot of lines going on there. It's hard to tell exactly what's happening when. So that's why I scripted the application to take a fresh capture of the mouse data every 12 seconds. And then while I was at it, I took a screenshot. So after the workshop, I can clean up that mouse data and combine those two streams together. I can overlay the mouse data over a screenshot. So let me zoom in so you can see. And so this is just 12 seconds of data from a student. And from 12 seconds, we can actually tell quite a bit. I can tell that they spent most of their time over here in the layers panel, that they were clicking on those two image thumbnails, and that they went back and forth between the canvas and the layers panel a couple times, and that they went up to the edit menu and quickly clicked edit undo. That shows to me they're pretty computer proficient. They know that edit undo is sort of a universal thing for these kind of applications. So that's just 12 seconds. Once you get good at analyzing a single frame like this, you can start animating it and looking at patterns across the classroom. So this is an example. In the middle there is the instructor, what they're doing with their mouse, and then all around them is what the students are doing. And you can start looking at that, looking for patterns, and then comparing that to an audio recording you made of the instruction. That way you can fine-tune. You can find a single sentence that confused everyone. You can really know what's working. So that's where Macaw is today. I like to think that it's a rough proof of concept. I know that it's working. What I want to do next is a pilot study. So a pilot study would allow me to quickly identify any quirks that come up with using Macaw and live instruction. And secondly, it would demonstrate the validity of Macaw as an assessment method, as an alternative to traditional assessment. While the pilot study is going on, I want to keep improving Macaw. So right now, it's only working on the Mac operating system because that's what I use to teach most often. I want to make it platform agnostic so that no matter what kind of lab or classroom you have, you can use Macaw. Right now, it's also pretty inefficient as far as time because I go around and I start and stop up Macaw locally on each computer. In the next iteration, it's going to talk over the network. So I'll just start it from one computer and it will start up on all the other ones. I also want to allow the student to opt out. So while there aren't too many privacy concerns because all of the data is anonymous, some students just don't want to be tracked, so I want to give them an easy way to opt out of being tracked. These are a few examples of improvements that I want to make. There are a lot more that I can probably do, but the important thing is I want to make a few of these improvements so that Macaw is easy to use, because right now it's a little idiosyncratic about, I developed it, it's for my lab. What I want to do is to be able to share it. I want to put it online, make it a collaborative, open source venture, because I think a lot of different types of instructors who teach with computers could use this. And so winning the Emerging Leaders Award would help me get to this sharing stage a lot faster, because I would have the money to conduct a pilot study. And so if you're interested in Macaw, I'd encourage you to vote for me. I want to thank these Flickr users for putting their photos up with Creative Commons licensing, and thank you all for your kind attention.